Alright, so here we have the totally unbiased offensive tier list. And in this tier list, we have 8 tiers, just like the classic old Seton tier list, when those were things. Shouldn't exist here. They should either be deleted from the game, or are very close to being deleted from the game because of how OP they are. Beyond God, crazy good, solid, all self-explanatory. Above average, where they're very usable champions, and I would definitely consider using them in a lot of scenarios. Sometimes bearable, where they might have 1 or 2 uses. And tier 7 is tier 7, and then punching bags accomplices is the memes of the game. I will be going over all the 2022 champs, but for any other questions about the tier list, just put them in the comments or join my Discord. You can ask me there. I'll leave a link to the tier list in the comments as well. So starting off, we have Scorpion, who is the king of the science class in my opinion. I think he's better than Torch, and I wouldn't say he's better than Quake, because Quake is way too OP to become a 6-star, but, you know, I'm gonna add the 5-star restricted champs into the tier list. But Scorpion, he destroys Abyss and Labyrinth with his Venom synergy. He destroys story content, side quests, event quests, battlegrounds, obviously. The king of Arena, there's no better Arena champ, obviously. I don't know much about him in incursions, but I think he'd be pretty good for them. And, yeah, he's just so good. In the Beyond God tier class, we have Valk. Valk she just does a lot of damage, and her Awaken ability has some insane utility that you can add into her kit if you give her SIGs. And she was definitely slept on when she first came out, but now I think people realize how good she is. Next is a Mega Sentinel, just absolute utility machine and plenty of damage with the highest base attack in the game, and all that Incinerator Plasma. She's just a really solid addition to the game. Then I have Hulkling and Gallon, which are basically the same exact champ. I'm not a big fan of Hulkling, but I think they're basically equal on tier levels. And yeah, they're just so good, especially this Battlegrounds meta. Then I have these 3, which I have a hard time determining which is the best second and third of those 3. I'm gonna say Quicksilver's probably the best of the 3, but it's Quicksilver's just got plenty of utility, and then his damage in longer fights is amazing. Definitely use Spotter Titania when you're using Battlegrounds or just shorter fights in general, because they just can get their good damage a lot quicker than Quicksilver does, which it seems a bit ironic, but that's how it works. Black Cat and Mantis. Black Cat is literally Falcon 2.0, but I prefer her over Falcon 2. I'm not sure if she's better, but I do have Falcon in a lower tier, but I prefer Black Cat a lot more than Falcon, and I know a lot of people I've talked to agree with me on that. Mantis is just so quick and bursty. I haven't seen her used very much, but I do think that she is gonna be a crazy good Battlegrounds champ, and maybe a little bit in Alliance War with her Tranquilize debuff would be pretty solid. Then that's 2022 champs. Infamous Iron Man. I just think he's got some insane power control, and he just looks so cool. I don't really have much to say about him, but Rintrah, I've never been the biggest Rintrah fan, but I think I can see why people love him so much, and mine's currently 6-star rank 2. I don't know if I'm gonna take him any higher. I probably will, but I know why people like him, so that's gonna be all for crazy. So we have solid tier now. Solid tier is just the biggest tier because there's just so many solid champions in this game, especially with reworks and how solid the 2022 champs were. There were just, like, not many bad ones at all. I'll get into those later, but we'll start with Misty Knight. And I think the fact that Misty Knight can just be unblockable and have guaranteed crits the entire fight is just something that's very underused and undervalued. And I think people should be talking about Misty a lot more. But yeah, I really think Misty's a lot better than people give her credit for. Then I have Toad. I've never been the biggest Toad fan, and I still think he's kind of overrated, but you know, he's still pretty good. I prefer Captain Britain by a lot, because as most of you who know my channel know, because I have like 30 different videos on Captain Britain, but
Captain Britain's one of the most underrated champs in the entire game, in my opinion. I almost put her in crazy good tier, but I held myself back. And yeah, I gave her the people would hate this tag because I know very few people who actually like this champ. But next is okay. There's Wiccan. I've never been a big fan of Wiccan either, but I didn't really like most of the Mystics this year. Wiccan, he's cool. I think he's also a little overrated, but he does what he does very well. That's all. I don't really know what else to say about him. Next is the above average tier. I'm gonna start it with Jessica Jones. Jessica is absolutely crazy when you have time to ramp her up. It's just most of the great content you're not gonna use her for because she's gonna take a little bit longer than you'd like. You could make an argument to put her here, and I almost did, but I think she's gonna be an above average tier. And same with Atuma, except, you know, I want to see more stuff from Atuma, and I think he could get tuned up maybe. But if he doesn't, I don't know if I'm ever gonna use him. He just has such a niche that I just don't think is very important. And he's a weird champ. Hopefully people start using him more because I think he's really cool. But then Sauron's just a big disaster. I mean, his damage is so miserable, but it's such an easy fix if they ever decide to do it. You just double the prowess. I've said this in a few other videos. Sauron is such an easy fix, and I really hope they end up doing that. Also, Sam Wilson. I hate Sam Wilson. I think his damage is completely miserable. He's got plenty of utility, but I think the biggest utility champ, like we're going to see in the next two tiers, can just be... It doesn't even matter if they don't have good damage, like even average damage, which Sam Wilson just doesn't have. Then we have Wong. Wong, he's just a Labyrinth champ. You can't use him anywhere else. I've seen people try to say that, you know, you can use him in Battlegrounds and story content, but I've never seen it really happen on other YouTubers' things. You know, maybe you can, but I don't think he's ever going to be a good option. And then in the sometimes bearable tier, did I put it? I don't think we have any 2022 champs here, actually. Okay, in tier 7, I know we have someone here. We have Shuri. Shuri is just a big disaster. She's an easy tune-up as well, I think, but if they don't tune her up, I don't even know what rebalancing is for. They've got to do it. I don't see any reason you can't. But that's where I'm putting Shuri for now. And I think that's all the 20... First is Gore. And I think this is gonna be pre-buff Gore. I'm not sure if he's gonna go any higher or lower based on his buff. Maybe even pre-buff should be here and then post-buff should be here, but I don't know. I think his buff is gonna make him really, really, really good to use, and I'm excited for it. And the only other champ I didn't talk about was Spidey Supreme, who actually wasn't even on the list. I accidentally forgot to put him on there, and I just added him. I don't know much about the character, honestly. He's the only character I don't have good knowledge about how he works, but once I pull him from the featured, which I hope will happen, I'll definitely try to make some videos on him when that comes out in a few weeks. But yeah, that's the 2022 champs. If you have any questions about the tier list, you can ask in the comments. I think I'll put a link to it in the description and the comments as well. And that's all.